YouTube, it's Chris from Audio Obsession. So today's video is not actually an update. What it is a video contest entry for another channel who's put on a contest because he's reached or was reaching, but I believe now he's surpassed 100 subscribers, and that would be Gordon over at the Blackened Hymns channel. He's put on a really good channel. He's got a wealth of knowledge, and I really enjoy watching his videos. He's always got something interesting, and there's actually been plenty of stuff that I haven't heard, and I've actually checked out because of him. And it's just great also, even for stuff that I do have, he gives his take and his views. And to me, that's just interesting, hearing other people's views on stuff that I like, and it's interesting to hear what they have to say. So anyways, this contest there's two rules. One being you have to talk about the first live band that you've seen. And the second is the best live show. So for me, I've seen lots and lots of shows, various styles of music. So it's not just death metal. It's like death metal, black metal, stoner rock, blues, you name it, all kinds of stuff. But my first actual show, I was definitely underage, and I was in high school. So this obviously wasn't a big concert. It was only in a little bar. Basically, this bar was in the basement of a strip mall. And I had a buddy who had friends that listened to heavier music, and they knew that me and my other friends were into the same thing, so he would always fire out some names of bands that, back in the early 90s, you had very difficult access to finding bands. You either had to get it in magazines, whatnot, so it's definitely not like it is today, where at the click of a mouse or flipping on your phone, you get to find anything and everything out there. Like, people nowadays don't realize how lucky they are. So anyways, we were told about a band that was somewhat local, really only about a half-hour drive from where I lived in Hamilton, Ontario. And this band was named Shallow. Now, I'd shown these guys on a video previous. Now, this was their initial name that they started out with, Shallow. So at some point in time, there must have been either some sort of legality or something, but they ended up changing their name from Shallow to Shallow, North Dakota. And I remember when I saw this band live. So this is, again, my first show, going with a couple buddies of mine, and we were just hardcore into heavy stuff. We wanted to see heavy bands, and finally getting that chance, even though it was at a bar, thankfully all ages, so I could get in, to me it felt like a big concert, because this was my first real outing. And when these guys hit the stage, I was completely bowled over. It was unbelievably heavy. I had no idea what I was in for, and this band blew me away completely. They were, even though at the time I was starting to get into death metal, I was huge into Slayer back then, so thrash, speed metal. These guys were of the sludge category. And I wasn't familiar with that style, but when I heard it, to me, it was metal. Because really, back then, there was no name for that genre of music. It was just, loud, hard rock, whatever. But now you would classify them under the sludge metal category. But when they hit the stage, I couldn't believe it. It was the first time that I had seen the drummer being a vocalist. Big guy, and he would wail on those drums, and his voice was so powerful and commanding. It was a yelling, screaming voice, but he had tone to it. And he had, even though it was a scream, there was still melody. There was still, a method to the madness. It wasn't just going, just screaming and yelling. And absolutely incredible. The guitar tone was the dirtiest, nastiest tone I had ever heard. I was initially, when I started playing guitar, I wanted to have, like the Dimebag Darrell sound, or even Slayer, really heavy, distorted guitar tone. But when I heard this guitarist guitar tone, it was nothing that I'd ever heard before. It was so dirty. It literally sounded like the amp was on the verge of exploding. Like, as if the speakers couldn't handle it. It was so nasty sounding, and it was so cool. It was one guitarist, and it was so damn thick that you'd swear you had 10 guitarists out there. The bass was so deep and heavy, and every time it was plucked, it would just punch you right in the gut. Unbelievable show. And when I went back to school the Monday after, I was just, in heaven. I could not believe I finally got to see a show like that. And they just literally tore me up. I thought, bands like Slayer were heavy and stuff like that. But when I saw Shallow play live, I didn't think I'd ever find a band heavier than that. It was just so loud and heavy. My ears were ringing for days. And I'd still have to say, to this day, they were the loudest band I ever heard in my entire life. And since the 90s, the early 90s moving on, I've seen plenty of shows. I've been to plenty of shows. I've played in shows. That day was the loudest band I had ever heard in my entire life. Now, here, I'll show you a couple. I know I've shown these before too, but so now I had my hands on their first initial demo tape. It's impossible to find. It is virtually impossible to find. And of course, me being the generous person, I lent it out to somebody, and sure as shit, I never saw it again. I'm still on the hunt for it, but this would have been their debut full length after that, which really kind of took them off. Started seeing videos on Much Music, so for like a local band, they were starting to take off and doing a lot of touring. Their second album, this one came out in '97. This Apparatus Must Be Earthed. And I'll show that here, and that came out, they were on the Sonic Onion label out of Hamilton, Ontario. And they only had a couple albums, and I believe this one came out in 2004, and it was their Mob Wheel album. Now, this one was really cool. It's hard to see it there, a numbered 300 edition, and each one of these were all hand silk screened, and I'm not going to pull it out because it's kind of ignorant. It's a big fold out thing just to get the record out, and it's a pain in the nuts to get it right back in this plastic. And this last one, which I actually just recently got in, I'd say a month ago or so. So this is a three-way split between Shallow, North Dakota, Ken Mode, and Kowloon Walled City. The reason, and here I'll show you, the reason for this split was, unfortunately, in Shallow, their drummer and singer was recently diagnosed with cancer. So the bands rallied, friends, family rallied up together to put a GoFundMe, and then the idea came about to put out a split of unreleased songs, and all the proceeds went to Tony Jacome, which was the drummer for Shallow, to his family to help support, because of course, medical costs are like astronomical. And I've heard some good news that he's doing well. He's fighting really hard, so I really hope that he pulls through with no issues whatsoever. You'd hope for that for anybody who is diagnosed with cancer. Like, it's a bitch, that's for sure. So I'll leave a link. I'm not sure, there may be some copies of this left, so what I'll do is I'll leave a link for you to have access for anybody who's interested. And like I said, all the proceeds go straight to Tony and his family for support. So it's such a great idea for a community to come together to do that for a fellow member. So that was the band for my first ever show. The best band live, literally, I've been sitting here going over as much as I can remember. Like, sometimes my memory's a blur and stuff just kind of blends together, and I can't remember some of the shows, and I've actually found tickets lying around that I've kept. And I'll look at it and go, oh shit, really? I forgot I saw that band. And then, my memory comes back again. Oh yeah, shit, I forgot. So I was even actually perusing my record collection and CDs, trying to think of, oh my God, what would have been, because for me, just going to see live bands, it's hard for me to say you're better than the next, or this was better than whatever. It's really difficult for me. But this one in particular, I actually had an interesting night, so I'd have to say that it falls into that category because it was a pretty exciting night for me. So the band in question is Cradle of Filth. And here, this is actually Peace Through Superior Firepower, their DVD that came out in 2003, somewhere around there. And so in the 90s, especially, when Principle of Evil Made Flesh came out, so basically from then on, in the 90s and the 2000s, I was a massive Cradle of Filth fan. Like, they were literally my favorite band. So any chance I got, I went to see them. I've saved tickets. I've got them kicking around somewhere. I've always saved my ticket stubs. But on this particular night, I ended up taking a friend who's, mutually loved the band too, and at the time, my wife. Anyways, we're not going to get into that. So they all came along with me, and we decided, you know what? Their bus is outside. We had just went and seen the show. They played with Moonspell. It was incredible. It was fantastic. To have two bands of that caliber playing together was just absolutely blew me away. Moonspell is an incredible live band. But anyways, Cradle of Filth, they put on a big theatrical show. Like, anybody who's seen their videos and stuff, they've got all kinds of theatrics, and they generally take that with them when they do live shows. So it was incredible. They had, the guy grinding on the chest, sparks everywhere, all kinds of stuff going on. Things dancing around, Anyways, you get the idea. So at the end of the show, their tour bus was on the side of the road. It was a small venue. And we decided there's a big group of people hanging around there. Maybe I'll get a chance to meet the guys, or at least see them walk out to the bus. I was standing around waiting in the crowd, and all of a sudden this guy comes stumbling out the back door. Literally, no joke, with kind of a voice like Barney Gumble from The Simpsons. This guy was drunk. And he come and fell into me, and he put his hand on my chest, and he looked at me and goes, "Happy birthday." And he turned around and let out a big Barney Gumble burp, and then stumbled along on his way. And I looked down at my chest, and what was stuck to my chest was this. This was the backstage pass to go meet the band. And I literally looked at it, and a bunch of people are looking at me, and they're going, "Well, what are you waiting for? Get in there." And I'm going, this has never happened to me before. This was like, at the time, this is like winning the lottery for me. So sure enough, I'm walking in, and here I'm walking in the door through the hallway. You got bouncers everywhere, and I'm literally walking around like Mr. Bean, going, hey, you see, yeah, I can come back here. It was hilarious. I was shaking like crazy, and finally they led me into the room, and here you've got Moonspell and Cradle of Filth all there. Everybody's jacking around. You've got monstrous barrels full of like beer and food, all kinds of stuff. And I literally had an absolute blast back there talking with everybody. And initially, when I went back there, I wanted to get, signatures from the band. And what was actually kind of cool was, I don't know if you can see this. This here is actually a Cradle of Filth tattoo artwork that's in one of their albums. And I walked in there. Now, at the time, I only had this tattoo on this arm, so it was much cleaner looking. And I got in to see the band, and when they saw that, they were all kind of going crazy, and a bunch of them, poking at me, like, why would I put their faces on, my arm and all this stuff. And they had a woman there who was taking video. So she took a video of it, and I got pictures with Danny and the band and whatever. And then, of course, a little while later, I find out that they were putting out a DVD. I ended up getting, of course, I had everything Cradle of Filth, so I went and got the DVD, and sure as shit, I get to the end of the DVD where they've got all the extras, the behind-the-scenes stuff, and who's in the video? Me, getting my arm signed and getting pictures. So for like a fan to be able to see, I mean, yeah, it was awesome. It was something else. So having an incredible night, having some drunk guy just land into me because clearly he was kicked out, and I get the backstage pass, and at that time I felt like a king, and it was just a fantastic show. I've seen plenty of other shows that there's something that I could take away from it that makes it a fantastic show too, but this one had a cool story with it, so I thought I'd share that one with you. And here I've actually still got my ticket, and we got, a couple signatures, whatever. I had a bunch of other stuff that I had to take with me to get some signatures and stuff, so yeah, I got a picture somewhere in my house, me and Danny and whatever, so yeah, it was just cool. Anyways, this was my video, my entry. So congratulations to Gordon. I know you've surpassed your 100 subscribers, and it's definitely well-deserved. I enjoy watching your channel, and yeah, congratulations. I'll leave a link to the Blackened Hymns channel here for anybody who hasn't subscribed. You can go head on over and say hi. So thank you very much, and next video I'll do another update. See ya.